The story begins with a man standing atop a mountain of corpses. He asked Louis why this had been done to him, remembering they were like brothers who had fought together through life and death. Louis reminded him of the beginning of the calamity. Monsters emerged from strange spatial rifts, sowing chaos everywhere. Over time, these rifts were named dungeons, and those who came into contact with them gained mysterious powers known as classes. For this reason, the class core was formed to conquer the dungeons, and they advanced triumphantly. Louis began to stare intently at the protagonist, revealing that this was precisely why he had to be eliminated. The man had become uncontrollable. Powerful class users could easily disrupt the Empire's order, and he, having surpassed even the Triple S rank, was the most dangerous enemy of all. Supreme power had to remain in the hands of the royal family, as only then could the Empire remain stable. With eyes gleaming with rage, the protagonist questioned if this was an excuse to slaughter his family and comrades. With malice in his eyes, Louis clarified that he was doing this for the stability of the Empire. Just before the protagonist could take another breath, Louis triggered a powerful explosion, revealing that he had tampered with his armor long ago. The explosion would also inject a compound poison into his wounds. Louis knew that after an SSS rank battle, the protagonist would not have the strength to resist. To ensure this, Louis had prepared an entire army, considering it his final show of respect. Just before dying, the protagonist began to recall memories of the moments spent with Louis. At that moment, his hidden skill, Mirror World, met its activation conditions. Mirror World, an SSS rank hidden skill, was the ultimate ability that reverted everything. He lost his life, and his soul sank into a lake. Decades later, a pair of boys were torturing another boy, tying him to a tree and submerging his body in the lake. One of them punched him in the stomach and told his friend to dunk him again. As they tortured him, they couldn't help but mock him, deciding to keep him underwater longer to teach him a lesson if he kept pretending. His expression seemed hilarious to them, and they planned to pull him out, only to beat him a few more times. The boy could no longer hold his breath. He didn't know why he always had to be the one suffering. At that moment, the protagonist's soul began to awaken. A boy with glasses approached the bullies and told them to stop as the other boy was going to die. One of the bullies turned around and with an arrogant gaze retorted that if he was about to die, he should just heal himself, as that's what a shanter was for, though he knew it wouldn't be much use. He then mentioned that the boy with glasses was a hypocrite, as he had been the one to lead them all to find him. Therefore, if the boy died, it would be his fault. The boy with glasses panicked, explaining that he only did it because they had forced him. This angered the bully who prepared to hit him. But then something strange happened, and a powerful light began to emerge from the lake. The bully started to flee the scene, screaming in terror about the appearance of a dungeon and the need to escape, as a new dungeon was beyond their capabilities. The attention of the boy with glasses was fixed on the boy they were torturing. Seeing that he was still submerged in the water, he started running toward the rope, knowing he had to save him. At that moment, the lake dried up completely and monsters began to appear. The boy with glasses started to untie the knots, and while he was distracted, one of the monsters lunged at him. But just then, the boy who was tied up grabbed him by the clothes and pulled him out of the attack's path. Then he extended his hand and used a skill called Glacial Impact. The system informed him that he had used Basic Heal on Minor Demon A, but the action had failed because the target's HP was already full. The boy with glasses panicked, not understanding why he was healing the monster. When the monster tried to attack again, he summoned a shield, blocking the attack just in the nick of time. When the protagonist opened the information window, he saw that his name was Yun and he had the Chanter class. He realized he had used a healing spell and that this was not his original body. Normally, when someone touched a dungeon, they would bind to the system and obtain a random starting class, which should be unchangeable. After that, they would grow and become stronger through the dungeon, gaining skills tied to their class. However, he had been a warrior who had reached the pinnacle. Back then, he had used a skill called Mirror World. After that, he was trapped in the Mirror World until he heard the dying cry of that boy. He finally realized that he had been revived in that boy's body. This was not exactly a happy thought, but he still thanked the boy for giving him a chance at revenge. The boy with glasses informed Yun that the monsters were surrounding them and asked for immediate help, as he could only handle 3 at most. The protagonist knew his body was too weak. Even these small enemies were beyond his capabilities. At their speed, he couldn't even run. Opening his skill window, he realized they were all useless. Basic Heal restored 1 to 4 HP to a target, and Entangling Vines summoned vines to immobilize a single enemy with a low success rate. Chanter was too specialized. Its strengths were in support, but it was outclassed in every role. It was no wonder this class was always looked down upon. For now, with his old combat instincts, he could resist briefly. Yuna dodged the monster's attack, knowing he needed a quick way out, as he would die if his stamina ran out. Now, the hidden skill Mirror World was his only hope. The protagonist dodged an attack without knowing how the skill worked, and then touched the monster, but the skill failed as the conditions were not met. He didn't know if his level was too low or if it needed a real mirror. When he used the skill on the monster again, it failed once more due to his level being insufficient. Noticing this, he concluded that Mirror World needed a reflective surface to activate. The level issue couldn't be solved yet, so he decided to try another target. When the protagonist used the skill on the monster's weapon, it failed again due to his insufficient level. He tried the skill on a tattered loincloth, but it also failed for the same reason. The boy with glasses panicked and told him to stop wasting time with his useless skills as he couldn't hold on much longer. A burst of energy descended from the sky, and a monster called a malformed Overlord level 10 appeared. The boy with glasses knew they were dead. An elite monster like this required at least level 10 to be defeated. Several more bursts of energy began to descend from the sky, and his eyes widened in fear, causing him to fall to the ground. Hundreds of fierce monsters appeared before them. While the protagonist was busy using his skill, the monsters began to charge toward them. Yin couldn't even use his skill on rocks, wondering if the level gap was too large. Then, the protagonist decided to use his skill on Zioi's makeshift barrier, but the system informed him that it had failed, as the skills of others could not be reversed. Upon realizing he couldn't reverse others' skills, a smile spread across his face, as this meant he could reverse his own. Once the protagonist used the skill on his own ability, it revealed that Mirror World had successfully reversed his entangling vine skill. Yuna used chaotic thorns, causing thousands of thorns to erupt from the ground. When one of the monsters tried to attack, another monster surrounded by a red aura struck it, saving Chao Ji. He was somewhat confused, not knowing what was happening. But the protagonist realized that the skill's effect had been completely inverted. Instead of immobilize, it now inflicted confusion. The entangling vines skill normally entangled a single enemy with a low chance of immobilizing it. However, its reversed upgrade, chaotic thorns, now caused thorns to lash out at a target with a low chance of inflicting confusion. The monsters began to attack each other. This was due to the confusion status effect, which caused afflicted units to attack random targets. The protagonist couldn't help but smile as he realized that a useless skill had become powerful after being reversed. This made him contemplate what would happen if he reversed the rest of his skills. Mirror World truly lived up to its reputation as an SSS rank hidden skill. It not only reversed the effects of skills, but also applied an overall enhancement. If he had used the non-reverted version of this skill, the success rate would be low. The duration of the restraint would only last a second at most, not reaching its current potency. Our boy grabbed a sword that was stuck in the ground and couldn't help but wonder what would happen if he reversed his remaining skills. His attention was drawn to the skill Empowered Strike. It cost 20 mana points, had a duration of 30 seconds, and granted a 5% attack boost to one unit with the effect ending when the unit consumed mana points. When Yin reverted this skill, it transformed into Trick Blade. It cost 40 mana points, lasted 60 seconds, and granted a 10% attack boost for each consumption of mana points. He activated Trick Blade, and his sword began to emanate a powerful aura. He realized that each skill used granted a 10% boost in attack power. Trick Blade was active with 60 seconds remaining on its duration. Just by activating this, any skill usage would trigger attack power increases. The potential was incredible. Yuna leveled up, now reaching level 6. He noticed that many monsters had died from their own infighting and realized that these monsters gave a decent amount of experience upon death. When one of the monsters tried a surprise attack, our boy reacted in time and blocked the attack. Yun's attention was drawn to his own HP bar, which had 480 HP and 120 mana points. He realized that leveling up fully restored his mana points. While the monsters remained chaotic, he decided to test this Trick Blade. Yun activated Chaotic Thorns, consuming mana points. This triggered the effect of Trick Blade, causing a rapid decrease in his mana points, while his attack repeatedly increased by a 10% boost with each consumption. He now had 12 mana points, but his Trick Blade had resulted in a 120% attack increase with 44 seconds remaining on its duration. His eyes began to gleam, and his attention fixed on one of the monsters charging towards him. He realized that this skill broke all conventions by allowing him to reach 2.2 times his attack power so easily. When a monster attacked, our boy deflected the blow, moved behind it, and dealt a deep gash on its back, and then its stomach. Zioi was in shock. He couldn't believe this was Yun observing his movements. He wondered how a level 5 chanter could have such capability. And since when did chanters possess such skills? Our boy continued to fight the monsters, killing them one by one. With his level 6 stats, 120 mana points, and 1 mana point regeneration per second, he realized he could theoretically reach 2.3 times his attack power. In an instant, he defeated a level 11 monster and couldn't help but smile. He realized his current strength could barely handle these level 11 elites. At that moment, a hand emerged from the ground. Yun's attention was fixed on it as a level 21 monster called Battle Fiend Chimera emerged from the ground and began to roar. It turned and massacred the smaller monsters in a single move. Chaoji's eyes filled with fear. While on the other hand, our boy felt somewhat surprised to see a hidden level 21 boss in this dungeon. The boss began to charge toward our boy when he tried to use Chaotic Thorns. The skill failed as the monster was immune to chaos. Just before the monster could attack, Chaoji stepped in front and summoned his shield. Yuna felt somewhat surprised, and not long after, he began to see someone familiar. A blonde-haired boy called him an idiot, telling him he had asked him not to charge forward. Our boy's eyes widened. The boss attacked with force, shattering the shield Zioi had summoned and sending his body crashing hard against the ground. Yuna rushed towards him. He extended his hand and began to use his skills. He activated Basic Heal on Xiao, which restored 1 HP. This consumed mana points, leaving him with 54 points. Trick Blade activated, granting him a 10% damage boost. Immediately after Basic Heal activated again on Xiao Ji, this time with a critical hit that restored 5 HP. Our boy's mana points reached 1. He considered that a chanter's healing skills were truly pathetic and asked Zioi if he had any health potions. He said he had an emergency one, and our boy told him to drink it. His Trick Blade now had 85 seconds of duration left. The boss started killing the other monsters. Yin knew he was not yet a match for this boss, but the mobs were almost all dead. He had a plan in mind. Showing his blade, he asked Xiaozhi to hold on for a minute as he was going to finish off the monsters, leaving him somewhat surprised. Our boy moved like a thunderclap, slicing the monsters to pieces. The duration of his Trick Blade had reached 0. Yuna leveled up, restoring his HP and mana points to 80-20. He activated Trick Blade by using Chaotic Thorns repeatedly. Each consumption of mana points triggered the effect of Trick Blade, increasing its attack by plus 10% with each activation. He knew he needed at least a 400% attack boost to defeat the boss. He began to slaughter more monsters. Leveling up again, this restored his mana points to 110. He activated Chaotic Thorns, which granted him a 10% attack damage boost and reduced his mana points to 101. He repeated the activation of Chaotic Thorns, gaining another 10% attack boost as his mana points dropped to 92. He realized he had to cast Chaotic Thorns 40 times in 50 seconds, which meant he needed to reach level 10. Tiaoji was in shock, unable to believe what his eyes were seeing. Yin leveled up several times. The boss prepared to attack, but our boy began to glow. He was now level 12. His Trick Blade had a 510% boost and a duration of 95 seconds, which was more than enough to face this boss. Yuna moved like lightning, cutting off its arm, then appeared behind it and launched a chain of slashes, causing the monster terrible pain. Just before it had time to react, our boy sliced its body to pieces. In the blink of an eye, he had defeated a level 21 boss that had over 10,000 HP. After killing this boss, our boy gained 3 levels, now being level 15. Chaoji was in shock and didn't know if he was dreaming, wondering if a level 5 chanter had just solo cleared an entirely new dungeon. Now that the dungeon lord had been defeated, the dungeon was cleared. He approached and asked Yun if it was really him. The monsters dropped items, and the system prompted our boy to collect them. He wanted to know how our boy had suddenly become so strong. Our boy began to recall his past, and upon seeing Zioi's face, he asked what his relationship was with Chao Benben. Tiaoji was in shock, as he didn't know how Yun knew his great-grandfather's nickname. Yuna was somewhat surprised to learn that he was actually the great-grandson of Chao Benben. He began to remember Chao Benben, and his eyes filled with sadness as all the people he knew had been killed by Louis. Just before he could ask more about Chao Benben, Zioi averted his gaze and mentioned that it wasn't necessary to talk about him at that moment. If Yuni didn't want to answer his question, he didn't have to say anything. There was no need to humiliate him like that. Yuna was a bit confused as he didn't know what was happening. Xiao mentioned that although he didn't know why, Yun had been hiding his true strength all this time. He advised that they should return to school since the next day the school would organize a visit to the Modern History Memorial Hall and skipping classes would get them noticed. Yuna couldn't help but clench his fist tightly and feel furious. He decided to listen to him, but deep down he knew he couldn't reveal his identity yet. If Chaoji investigated too much, he could become suspicious. Yuna thought about the Modern History Memorial Hall. It should have records of what happened after he died. The next day, they boarded the subway on their way to school. The students were very excited. Times had changed a lot. After being dead for so many years, the world had mutated enormously. He couldn't believe they now used products from the dungeons to power carriages. Many things had appeared that he had never seen before. However, he had seen some of them in dungeons in the past. He opened his system inventory. He wondered if only items dropped by monsters could be taken out of a dungeon. He equipped the Chimera Bone Ring. It was a level 14 ring formed from the rib of the dungeon lord of flesh and bone, the battlefield Chimera. It allowed the wearer to attach a chimera limb to their body. He took the robust physique skill book from his inventory. It was of excellent quality, a passive skill type, and its learnable class was universal. He noticed that equipment like this and skill books could be taken out through the inventory. They could also be bought and sold outside of dungeons. He had the resilient physique skill active. It was a passive permanent skill that reduced incoming physical damage. Things that couldn't be stored in the inventory after defeating the Lord should have disappeared along with the dungeon. His eyes began to gleam with confusion. He didn't know what had happened after his death. Not long after, he arrived at the Modern History Memorial Hall, and the first thing he saw was the statue of Louis, the supreme ruler of the kingdom, the emperor who had ended the dungeon disasters. The teacher began to guide the students through the Modern History Memorial Hall. He explained that many students knew that this very place more than 50 years ago had been the battlefield of that famous rebellion. The teacher explained that back then they were deeply afflicted by the dungeons. He added that especially after the most terrifying Trip S rank dungeon appeared, everyone lived in fear. King Louis personally led the professional army on an expedition. Despite suffering heavy casualties, he finally conquered this terrifying dungeon. But just at that moment, he encountered a long-planned rebellion. Its mastermind, as everyone knew, was Yun. Yun was the same man deeply trusted by the king, but who ultimately became an ungrateful traitor. Yun couldn't help but feel furious seeing that this was what history had become. They were the ones who cleared the Trip S-rank dungeon and the ones who were ambushed. The teacher clenched his fist, mentioning that they couldn't imagine the pain of being betrayed under such circumstances. But their king overcame this sorrow and fought with blood and courage. Finally, with the help of the hero Dingun, he successfully suppressed the rebellion. Yuna's eyes filled with curiosity upon hearing the name Ding Kun. He wondered if such a person existed. The bullies who had been torturing Yun in the lake appeared and felt somewhat confused and noticed that they were still alive. They wondered how this was possible since he and Xiao Ji had been dragged into the newly formed dungeon. One of the bullies mentioned that the dungeon had been cleared. He thought that for a new dungeon to be cleared so quickly, a master must have been nearby. According to him, they were incredibly lucky to have found that master. Our boy's attention fixed on them. Realizing that they were the bastards who had been torturing the owner of his body, everyone began to approach Ding Shu to find out what he was talking about. Reacting with total disbelief, they wondered if he had really encountered a new dungeon, and more shockingly, if he had survived a disaster within it. Ding Shu put his arm around Xiao and LT, Unk and GT's shoulder and mentioned that he was quite lucky to have made out alive. He began to whisper, revealing that they had almost dragged them into that dungeon that day and demanded to know how they planned to settle this debt. Chao panicked, making it clear that it was Ding Shu and LT, Unk and GT's fault. He threatened to report him, accusing him of almost causing his and Yun's deaths. Ding Shu grabbed Chao by the head, questioning what was going through his mind and realizing that he didn't seem to have any idea of the situation at all. Ding Shu was scared, Chao Ji, to look at the statue in front of them and observe his ancestor being trampled upon by the hero. He revealed that he was the traitor Zin and Xiao Ji was his descendant. Finally, he asked if he really thought anyone would take his side. Ding Shu began to shout, saying that Xiao could insult him, but he could not insult his ancestor, leaving poor Xiaoai in shock. Everyone started to gather around, knowing that Ding Shu and LT, Unk and GT's grandfather was the hero Dingun. Upon hearing this, our boy's eyes began to gleam with rage. The students realized that the person next to them was Xiao Ji, the descendant of Xia. To them, the descendant of a traitor insulting a hero was a sign of a world turned upside down. They recalled that his ancestor, Xian, had slaughtered many people, and if the hero hadn't intervened, who knows how many more would have died. Ding Shu began to feign, making it clear that he didn't care what he said about him behind his back. But he couldn't allow him to insult his ancestor to his face. The teacher approached Xiao, placed a hand on his shoulder, and asked him to apologize. He told him that as his teacher, he had always been fair and reminded him that the hero had forgiven his family in the past. He concluded that even if he didn't feel gratitude for this, he had no right to defame him. After saying this, the teacher left. Ding Shu placed a hand on his head and revealed that if he gave him a beating in public, people would only cheer him on. No one was going to help a vicious dog that was being beaten. And besides, Chao Ji was a particularly despised dog. He grabbed Kaijaja by the hair and asked if he really believed that he, the descendant of a hero, could be wrong. He prepared to hit Zaire, but at that moment, someone kicked him in the face, sending him to the ground. Zai's eyes widened in surprise. It was Yun, his eyes glowing with rage. He questioned if the hero's family didn't have time to discipline their brats. The students started recording, wondering if it was really Yun. They commented that he seemed like a completely different person and couldn't believe he had dared to strike Ding Shu. According to them, he was crazy, and some remembered he was only level 5, the weakest in his class, so they wondered what had happened to him to make him dare to hit Ding Shu. He had no parents and had always been too gloomy to have friends, so they thought he had lost his mind. Ding Shu wiped his cheek, making it clear that Yun was just a punching bag who should be grateful that Ding Shu wasn't coming after him. He couldn't believe he had still dared to attack him while he wasn't paying attention. He and his friends started charging towards our boy. Yun moved like thunder, dodging their attacks and striking them before they could react. Ding Shu fell to his knees on the ground and started spitting blood. The students began to murmur among themselves. Ding Shu was in shock as he couldn't believe how fast Yun was. The students were somewhat confused as they didn't know what had happened. They questioned how he had been taken down again so easily and if Ding Shu was in fact a weakling. Ding Shu exploded with rage, unable to believe how a trash tier level 5 support could suddenly be stronger than him. Immediately, he used the skill Hell, which increased his attack power by 25%. He equipped the Fire-Forged Hammer, which granted him 314 points of attack power. He thought Yin had just gotten lucky, and without wasting another second, he lunged at him. Our boy moved quickly and, taking advantage of the opening, punched him in the jaw. He was using the skill Blade of Trickery, which increased his attack power by 80%. Ding Shu was in shock. Our boy kicked him, sending him crashing hard to the ground. The guard arrived, and seeing Yin stepping on Ding Shu, asked if there was a healer. The students were in shock seeing how fast Yin was. They remembered he was only level 5. Even the blonde girl and her friend were in shock. The guard made it clear that fighting was forbidden inside the hall due to the risk of damaging something, and then asked the teacher why he couldn't control his students. The teacher started walking towards Yin. He had not only insulted a hero, but had now also dared to assault his descendant. According to him, Yin was shameless. The teacher unsheathed his sword in Yuna and LT, Unk and GT, as attention fixed on him. Our boy used the ring, and when the teacher tried to attack, his sword shattered into pieces, leaving everyone in shock. Yuno mentioned that they should set aside the discussion of who was shameless for a moment. He pointed out to the teacher that although he claimed to be fair, he seemed to have only listened to Ding Shu and LT, Unk and GT's side of the story, and he questioned him directly, asking if he was trying to curry favor with his family. The teacher told him to stop talking nonsense, and then his gaze fixed on our boy's ring. He wondered what kind of equipment it was, since although he hadn't used his full strength, it had managed to block his attack. As a powerful aura emanated from his body, Yin clarified that it was just a casual comment and added that he didn't believe the teacher was that type of person. The students were in shock as they couldn't believe Yun had even been able to block the teacher's attack. The teacher promised that he would thoroughly investigate the cause of this conflict. Internally, he wondered where Yun had obtained that kind of equipment and if he too had some kind of backing. The ring Yun wore was the Chimera Bone ring, whose durability was already damaged by 37%. Despite being of epic quality, it was still just equipment obtained from a level 21 lord, so using it against a level 35 teacher was pushing it too far. Yuna asked to be expelled from the hall as punishment along with Xiaoji. Xiaoji stood up and began to follow our boy with a confused gaze. The students couldn't believe that Yin had been able to block the teacher's attack and wondered if this was something a student could do. The teacher asked his students to use a healing spell on Ding Shu. In the meantime, our boy and Chao left the hall. He was sad as he couldn't believe that in the end, no one had survived and Benbin had been killed long ago by that so-called hero. His gaze fixed on Kaijaja, and he thought that if he asked him anything now, he would answer without thinking. He coughed and mentioned that his knowledge of history wasn't very good, so he asked him to recount the specific deeds of that hero Dinkuin. Choi became nervous, mentioning that although he wasn't sure if he remembered correctly, it seemed the hero Dingun had discovered the great villain Yun's conspiracy beforehand. He recounted that he had prepared an ambush near the Trip S rank dungeon to provide support, and that was how the entire rebellion crisis was resolved. Yuni felt somewhat surprised. He began to remember his past life and how they had been ambushed. Chao explained that the hero Dinkuin aspired to solve the dungeon crisis since he was young and always trained hard for it. After being promoted by the king, he fought across the country for years, saving various places from crises like the very famous Great Cataclysm of Winterfell City. Yuna began to gaze at the ground and pondered the image of his past self standing on a mountain of corpses came to his mind. With a sad expression, Yin asked about the sword held by the hero's statue. Tiaoji explained that it was the flowing cloud sword and added that as the story went, it was the sword the hero had used to execute the traitor Yun. It was a top-tier piece of equipment. Yuna's eyes began to glow with rage as they had not only stolen his glory and achievements, but had even taken his sword. Then he decided that he would kill Ding Kuan first. Outside the Ding family compound, several high-level warriors were patrolling. Suddenly, the eyes of one of them began to glow as his attention was drawn to something. Not far away, he saw Yun and Xiao slip into an alley. He decided not to pay much attention, thinking they were just passing through the area. Noticing how alert the man was, Yin wondered if he was a wanderer with scout skill. Xiao Ji suggested to Yuna that they should just leave. He argued that there were too many guards and that even if they managed to sneak in, the moment Ding Shu returned, they would be done for. Although he wanted to go and directly kill that hero, Ding Kuan, he knew it wasn't possible. According to Xiaowai, Ding Kuan spent all his time in a high-level dungeon. Unlike in his past life, one could not freely enter and exit dungeons. Now, the high-level ones were all guarded by the military, and a special pass was needed to enter. However, he was sure that Dingen's family must have such a pass in their home. Our boy asked if it was necessary for their family to keep so many guards, considering they were just one of dozens of branches descended from Dingun. Chaoji revealed that, after all, they were descendants of a hero, and that they also had a dungeon within their property. Our boy's eyes widened in surprise to learn that they had a dungeon at home. Xiao Jai mentioned that low-level dungeons had long been bought and sold privately, but this was not something that people without power and influence could even dream of. Ding Shu had guards with him all the time, so he could farm monsters and level up whenever he wanted. In contrast, ordinary students like them could only do so during the school's dungeon practicals, where they even had to fight over the monsters. Yuna realized that this era had changed a lot and questioned if this didn't mean that the richer and more powerful one was, the higher their level would be. Xiaowai nodded, revealing that an ordinary person usually graduates from school between level 15 and 20. And since many no longer have access to dungeons after that, they remain stuck at that level. If one got a job related to dungeons, like a miner or a ranger in National Dungeon, they might reach a level close to 30 by middle age. In contrast, guards like those at Ding Shu's house could take advantage of their family's dungeon, allowing them to be around level 30. To reach a higher level, one generally had to be recruited by the army or enter an official organization, such as a guild or a military academy through school assessments. Only then could one access higher-level dungeons and reach higher levels. Our boy knew that if he wanted to become stronger, that pass was essential. Chao suggested they just leave, arguing that the level gap was too large and that no matter how skilled he was, he would be no match for those guards. Yino was aware that his current strength was far from enough to kill that hero, let alone the supreme King Luo Wei, who was under layers of protection. However, he knew that the scouting skills one could learn around level 30 were generally small area skills like Eagle Eye, Enhanced Hearing, or Krat Spirit Summoning. These were not enough to cover the entire mansion compound 24 hours a day. Besides, this wasn't a life or death dungeon, and most of the guards were very complacent. He concluded that it was more than enough for him to get in. Sure, Al panicked. Yuna, however, took a leap and got onto the wall, thinking that compared to the almost flawless scouting in the Hyled dungeons of his past life, this was much more relaxed. Chaoji made it clear that even if they managed to get inside a private dungeon like this, they could be killed without any consequences. Our boy grabbed Chao by the shirt and asked if he didn't want to change his life. Chao Jai admitted that he did, but he planned to do it after joining a guild. Yin then asked if he really believed that a guild could change things for him. Kaya Jaja, the great-grandson of the traitor Zen, Chao and LT, Unk and GT's eyes filled with sadness. Our boy pulled him up onto the wall and made it clear that a person's destiny can only be changed in the present, not by betting on a what-if that even he himself wasn't sure of. Yuna was not going to pass up the dungeon right in front of him. He decided to let him decide for himself if he wanted to follow. Xiaoju began to sweat, and our boy pondered, wondering if the descendant would make the same choice as his ancestor. Tiaoji stood up, as he simply couldn't let him go to his death. Yin told him not to make a sound, explaining that there were no traces of a summoning-type scouting skill in this area. Therefore, as long as they kept their voices down, avoided their line of sight, and seized the right moment, they could easily get in. Yuna grabbed Xiao Ji, and following his plan, they managed to enter the Ding family compound. Tiaoji's attention was fixed on a dungeon that unfolded underground. They entered the dungeon and saw two monsters, one level 6 and the other level 8. Our boy noted that the level was slightly higher than in the previous dungeon, but the number of monsters was not as high, probably because Ding Shu and LT, Unk and GT, S family killed them regularly. Our boy mentioned that there were only 2 small mobs and asked him to go and give it a try. Xiaoji couldn't help but feel scared and refused, stating that there was no way he could beat them. Our boy forced him to fight. The monsters attacked, and he summoned his shield to defend himself. Still unable to believe that Yin trusted him to win, Kaijaja grew nervous and thought he shouldn't have come. Now he wanted to go home. Yin suggested he try fighting back, but Tiaoji asked how he was supposed to find an opportunity to fight back. Yuna assured him that he was watching and nothing bad would happen. Xiao decided to trust him, and using his shield, he attacked, but then the other monster tried to attack from behind, but he reacted in time and dodged the attack. It was just as Yin had thought. Tiaoji's talent was actually quite good. The problem was that he was always timid and panicked easily, so he only dared to defend. However, his subconscious judgment of spatial positioning was extremely accurate. Because of this, it always seemed like he was in a dangerous situation, but he didn't lose much health. Kaiger attacked the monster, but his shield shattered into pieces. Yin moved like thunder, killing the monsters. Xiaoji was somewhat surprised as he had leveled up. He was now level 7. Our boy explained that experience was distributed according to contribution, and that if he didn't unbalance the monsters, he wouldn't get much XP was the one who killed them. Yino wielded the crescentful bone blade, a blade formed from the condensed resentment in a leg bone, which increased his attack power by 62 and his spiritual attack by 11. Yuna noticed that Zioi's movements were very agile and asked him how he distributed his attribute points. Tiaoji revealed that except for spirit, he generally added them evenly. Our boy recalled that shield bearers didn't usually add points to agility. Chowger explained that if he didn't, he found it difficult to find a party at school. He clarified that no one wanted to wait for a slow shield bearer, as by the time he arrived, the others would have already taken all the monsters. Yuna let out a sigh and explained that he needed to have a long-term perspective. He clarified that advanced class promotions after level 60 had attribute requirements. He gave the example of the Bastion Fortress class, which required 60 stamina and 90 defense points, concluding that he couldn't just add points randomly. Chao mentioned that the highest an ordinary person would ever reach in their life was level 40 some, and wondered how he could even think about level 60, as that was Shrank. Our boy placed a hand on his shoulder, and with a smile told him that from that moment on, he could start thinking about Shrank or things far beyond Shrank. That said, he also needed to start planning his own class advancement. He reflected that his support class had only been revived thanks to the hidden skill Mirror World, and that if nothing unexpected happened, he would probably change to another class. He was in shock as he realized something stunning. His Mirror World skill could be leveled up. In the Ding family's private dungeon, Yin fought monsters with surprising speed. His Trick Blade skill boosted his attacks, but it ended just as he hit a level 17 zombie greed demon. The monster, still alive, showed Trick Blade's power, but also its limits in long fights. Yun's mana and stamina were low. The monster died, confirming his body couldn't handle extended battles. The fight yielded huge rewards. Yin gained 2 levels, reaching level 17, and his health, mana, and attribute points increased rapidly. He also got 2 shadow creature souls from elite zombies, which gave his SSS rank Mirror World skill 2,000 experience points, confirming he could level it up. After the battle, Yin collected items, pleased with the levels and Mirror World experience. Suddenly, sensing danger, he moved higher and saw Ding family guards patrolling more often. Below, Chao Ji, level 8, with new gear, nervously suggested they stop. He noted fewer monsters and high guard alert, making it too risky, wondering if they were found. Yuna agreed. Fighting now would be too hard, requiring constant guard watching and careful trick blade use. With his current power and increased security, the risk was too high. Yuna looked at a new skill book, Brick Spell, which created mana bricks. When reversed by Mirror World, it became Void Technique, making small objects intangible. He realized not all reverse skills were for combat. Some had subtle non-fighting uses. Yuna checked his Mirror World skill. It needed 30% more experience to level up. Standing on the cliff, he thought about the amazing power its reversal gave him. Even at its basic level, he felt more determined, imagining how much stronger he'd become when it leveled up. With glowing eyes, you made a new plan. This dungeon offered unique Mirror World experience from its monsters. He figured killing the boss could level up the skill to level 2, a reward too good to miss despite guard risk. They moved quietly through the cave, hiding behind rocks as guards used detection skills more often, making their position risky. Yuna cautiously peered ahead and saw their target, a massive shadowed figure on a throne bound by thick glowing purple chains at the top of stairs. Many guards protected it. This was the dungeon boss. From their hiding spot, Tiaoji was shocked to see a dungeon boss controlled like this. Yin was less surprised, noting their school's boss was also guarded, suggesting it's common for strong groups. Yuna scanned the scene, seeing relaxed guards on the stairs. He focused on the glowing purple chains binding the boss. Realizing they were powerful restraints, he quietly analyzed the situation. With so many guards, a direct attack on the boss would be suicidal and unwinnable, drawing everyone's attention. Yuna knew he couldn't kill the boss with all the guards, but he saw an opportunity. A guard wandered off alone. He decided to take them out one by one. Covering his face, he used Trick Blade, 150% attack boost, and ambushed the guard. The ambush worked perfectly. The guard was instantly crippled and fell as Cho-Woi watched. Yun stood over him with a dark presence, telling him to talk to get information. Terrified, the guard begged for his life, offering any information, admitting the Ding family didn't pay him enough to die for them. Yin listened, seeing this as his chance to ask about his main goal, infiltrating the compound. When Yuna asked about the hero dungeon pass, the guard was shocked. He quickly said the old master had many in his study and they weren't rare. Misunderstanding, the guard thought Yun was a hero grandpa fanatic. Frightened by Yun's silence, the guard swore he was truthful, saying he'd seen the old master take passes often. He warned that the passes were temporary samples. Without an insider, they'd be caught. Yuna wasn't bothered. He grabbed the guard's collar, telling him not to worry. With a cold look, he ordered the guard to empty his inventory, showing his plan to steal from him and likely take his identity. Back at the Ding family compound, Yin kept questioning the guard, holding him by his shirt. Yin was disappointed by a single mediocre skill book. The terrified guard swore it was all he had, explaining the Ding family kept all valuable dungeon drops in their inner residence, leaving outer guard scraps. Yin Shua learned Sunlight Baptism, a passive skill giving temporary defense after healing. He used Mirror World to reverse it into Moonlight Blessing, a strong offensive skill granting temporary attack boosts after healing. He noted this skill, like the dungeon passes, was in the inner residence. The guard pointed to the lavish Ding inner residence, explaining outer guards like him couldn't enter without a direct summons. He said security was extreme. Except for Ding Shu, everyone inside was over level 50 with top gear, making outer guards unneeded. Yuna held the guard closer, asking if the pass was in the residence. The terrified guard confirmed it, adding the powerful family head. Level 42 was also there, a foe Yun couldn't beat. He detailed the family strength. Current and second family heads, level 42, third family head, level 52, and old master, level 57. He warned that if the two strongest members returned, it would be impossible. After getting all the info, Yin knocked the guard out. He had Chao wear the guard's armor as a disguise and wait for his signal. Since the powerful family head was safe inside, Yin planned to lure him out instead of confronting him directly. Back in the dungeon, Yin observed the boss. He understood the Ding family used Heil chains to keep the boss alive, creating a permanent private farming spot. He realized this system security, relying on easily guarded chains, could be exploited. This was a big flaw. Guards thought their method was safe because no one would unlock the chains, but they didn't know Yun, who from his past life knew how to unlock them. He quietly approached a guard and easily undid the lock. The chains fell, and the enraged boss broke free, going wild. Guards panicked as the huge monster rampaged. This chaos was exactly what Yin needed to lure the family head out of the inner residence, using the perfect method to do so. The plan worked. Alarms blared as the level 42 family head rushed from the unguarded inner residence, ordering immediate dungeon reinforcement as he and his guards charged to handle the crisis. Yin used the distraction to grab the powerful level 60 combat chains that bound the boss. Holding the pulsing high-level gear, Yin knew his plan succeeded. With the family head and elite guards busy, he and Chao could easily enter the inner residence. As Yun's plan opened the way, new people arrived at the main entrance of the Ding family home. Servants greeted the returning second master, Ding Hao, level 42, and his son, Ding Shu, who drove up in a fancy car. Ding Hao brushed off Ding Shu and LT, Unk NGT's recent loss to Yun as a small mistake. But Ding Shu shot back that greeting his father wasn't why he was there. Ding Hao then opened the car door for Miss Yin Sha. Two young women stepped out, one with long blonde hair and her dark-haired friend, likely Yin Sha. The mustached family head back from the dungeon, Mess waited at the top of the stairs smiling. Suddenly his smile vanished, replaced by confusion, then anger. He roughly kicked a bowing servant out of his way, telling him not to block him. As the servant lay on the ground, the angry family head walked quickly towards Dinga, Ding Shu, and their two female guests, clearly upset. From the woods, Xiao Zhe, dressed as a guard, watched the scene at the house. Yin suddenly appeared behind him, surprising the boy. Xiao Ji said he was worried, noting that with the Ding family back, it wasn't a good time to sneak into the house. Yin calmly asked why he looked worried, and is surprised Xiaoji asked how he got there so fast. Yuna explained that the creature he let loose was a dungeon lord. Even a level 31 was hard to catch alive, meaning it would keep the Ding family's main fighters busy for a long time. He said they wouldn't defeat the boss anytime soon, making it the perfect chance for them. With that settled, he asked Xiao Ji what he had seen. Chaos looked back at the house, sadly. He said the servant the family head had kicked was his youngest uncle, Chowie, a level 17 man. Yin listened as Chao Jur told a dark part of their shared past. He said that when the old Yin rebelled, his family had already been killed. Tiaoji added that in a way this saved them from the years of shame and pain that followed for the children of traitors like his own family. Hearing about the pain Yun's old friend's family had suffered because of lies about their past, Yun's face showed grim sadness and strong will. As they watched from the trees, Chao continued his family's sad story. He explained that after being called traitors, the Chao family faced constant meanness from the empire. Their homes were destroyed and their lives were ruined. It got worse under secret orders from the so-called hero Dinkuan, who made sure the surviving Chao members were picked on and hurt constantly, beaten and broken with no other choice to survive. The remaining Chao family members were forced to work for the very people who helped ruin them, the Ding family. Now they live a poor life, always watching their masters' faces, bowing and scraping for scraps. Chaoji admitted with shame that they are sometimes shown off as proof of the Ding family's power and kindness for forgiving the children of a traitor. He said his father's generation tried to fight back and change their fate, speaking out against the unfairness. But their effort ended badly. The stress broke his father, who went crazy, while his uncle Zoli became completely obedient, acting like nothing more than the Ding family's dog. Heavy with this hopeless history, Xiao Ju began to doubt his own actions, wondering if it was right to follow Yun into such a dangerous place. His doubt was cut short when Yun turned to him and said firmly that he needed to go to the inner residence. Panicked, Chao tried to stop him, quickly reminding him that Dingshu and LT, Unk and GT, as father, a fully equipped level 42 fighter, was inside. He warned Yun that if he was found, he would surely die. Yun wasn't scared by the danger. He explained his belief that in this time, where powerful people control who can use power in dungeons, one can't hope to change their life without taking chances. He looked at Xiao Ji, adding that some things will never get done if one worries and waits too much. Finally, Yuna gave him a clear choice. He told Xiao he could help him change his fate, but Xiao Ji had to decide to act first. Yun made his own plans clear. He would fight back, but he wouldn't make Xiao Ji follow him. Even with Yun's strong will, Xiao was still very scared and doubtful. He argued that the Ding family was a huge power that ruled the world, asking how the two of them could possibly fight such a big force. Yun turned away from him, looking at the distant inner residence. As he started walking forward, he told the stunned Xiao Ji that his goal was much bigger than just taking down one family. The real enemy he planned to fight, he said, was the entire empire itself. Meanwhile, inside the quiet inner residence, Ding Hao relaxed on a couch served by a maid. He wondered how the dungeon lord had broken free from its strong chains. Seeing him, the blonde girl with Ding Shu politely asked her uncle if it was a bad time, offering to visit another day because of the emergency. Ding Hao quickly waved away her worries, saying his older brother, the family head, could handle it. He promised her that a simple dungeon problem was far less important than her visit. He continued, smiling, explaining that when his powerful father, the old master, and his third brother heard she was coming, they had already started heading back to the house to meet her. Also, he said they had already contacted Hero Grandpa, who was very excited to meet her, making it clear that handling the situation would be very easy. From a hidden spot on a balcony, Yin heard everything. His attention sharpened at Hero Grandpa, knowing they meant the so-called Hero Ding Kuan. His mind raced, connecting this new info with what he'd learned from the capture guard. To enter the hero's dungeon, one needed both a pass and someone to go with them. He looked at the guests, seeing how respectfully Yun Sha was treated, and realized her status must be very high. Then an important detail hit him. Her name was Yun Sha, sharing the same last name as his current self. He wondered if this was just a coincidence. For now, he pushed the thought aside. He focused his gaze, deciding to concentrate on his immediate goal, getting the dungeon pass. As he watched, Yun Sha stood silently, her face unreadable, a figure of mystery and importance. With the Ding family's main fighters busy, Yun used the chance to sneak into the inner residence. He moved silently through the rich hallways, slipping past two maids talking and using the shadows to hide. He went through the richly decorated halls, moving deeper into the mansion towards his goal. Meanwhile, Outside the dungeon, the problem was solved. The family head, Ding Yi, level 42, and his forces stood before the now defeated dungeon lord. Ding Yi looked at the situation, deciding the creature had been let loose on purpose. He was bothered, though, because they couldn't find who did it. He figured that taking such a big risk couldn't have been just for one piece of good equipment, like the chains. Determined to protect his home, he ordered his guards to surround the inner residence first. His main concern was his important guest. He couldn't let anything scare the young lady. Inside the study, Yin started his search. He went to the desk the guard had told him about, but was at first annoyed to find the drawers empty. Remembering his new non-fighting skill, he used phasing, the reverse of brick spell. This let his hand go through the solid wood of the desk, showing a hidden spot inside. He found a drawer full of books and journals. He pulled out the items, his eyes first landing on what looked like a diary. Pushing it aside, he found a real prize. A collection of high-quality fancy skill books. One was for a strong support skill, slowing aura, which could slow all enemies in a wide area. He had found the family's secret stash. The entrance to the Ding family's inner residence was now full of guards. Hiding in the nearby woods, Tiaoji watched in terror, wondering why all the guards had come and fearing they had been found. His panic grew as more guards arrived, and he realized the situation was too risky. He worried that if he didn't get out right away, he would be caught. The fear of being caught brought back painful memories of his father going mad and his family's constant suffering. His first thought was to run, to sneak away, and save himself. As another guard came near his hiding spot, he was frozen by not knowing what to do. But at that key moment, Yun's words came to his mind. He could be helped to change, but he had to make the choice himself first. Having made up his mind, Xiaoi let out a loud shout, purposely getting the guards' attention. He then burst from his hiding spot and started running, leading them away from the mansion. He had made his choice. He would act as a distraction to make sure Yun wasn't found. From inside the mansion, Yun saw Xiaoi's brave act. With the guards distracted, he broke a window and jumped out. He felt proud, realizing that his friend had finally overcome his fear and chosen to fight against his fate. To help Chaori escape, Yuna created an even bigger distraction. He landed among the guards, taunting them by saying he had stolen the chains and skill books, daring them to come and get them. Angry, the guards immediately left their positions and chased him. As he ran, Yuna used the slowing aura skill he had just stolen. However, thanks to Mirror World, the skill was reversed, becoming accelerating aura, which sped up himself and any friends nearby. The family head, Ding, he saw them running, but noticed something strange. Instead of running away from the house, they were heading back towards the dungeon. Realizing the danger, he ordered 2 of his squads to stop chasing and go back to protect the dungeon lord. Xiaoi, now running beside Yuni, was totally confused. He asked why Yuni was leading everyone in the wrong direction back towards danger. Yuni explained his big plan. He knew that with so many guards drawn out to chase them, the remaining forces must have already defeated the wild dungeon lord. To control the powerful boss, they would have had a huge fight. This meant the lord's health was now at its very lowest point, making it weak. Yin checked the status of his ultimate skill, Mirror World, seeing how close it was to getting stronger. With his eyes glowing purple, he knew what he had to do. Killing the weakened dungeon lord now would give him the final push he needed to make his most powerful ability stronger. A tense quiet settled in the Ding family's lavish sitting room. The blonde girl sipping tea politely told Ding how, her host, he could attend to the outdoor commotion. Smiling confidently, Dinga, the second patriarch, dismissed it as a small thief, assuring his guest his brother, Ding Yi, would handle it easily. But it was far from easy. In the dungeon, Grand Patriarch Ding Yi furiously tried to regain control. He yelled at a guard for being slow and ordered him to go directly after the rampaging overlord. Seeing Yun zip past, Ding Yi commanded his fastest units, rogues and archers, to abandon the boss and pursue the intruder at all costs. Their efforts failed. Yun moved with incredible speed, leaving them behind. He knew his advantage. He'd put half his attribute points into agility. Combined with his reversed acceleration skills, he was so fast that only specialized level 30 rogues or archers stood any chance of keeping up. He easily reached the main chamber where the skeletal overlord was surrounded. The beast was heavily wounded and crippled with guards struggling to cast a sealing spell. Yin saw his plan work perfectly. The boss was now at its weakest. With a surge of purple energy, he prepared to deliver one decisive blow to finish the weakened dungeon lord. As Yin neared, guards around the overlord spotted him. They shouted in alarm, scrambling to block his path. Before they could defend properly, Yin unleashed chaotic thorns. Purple thorny vines erupted from the ground, lashing out at them. The guards were bewildered, having never seen this skill. The thorns tried to inflict a status ailment. Humans usually resist such effects, but Yun's skill was unnaturally potent, and several guards failed to resist it. The horrifying result. Afflicted guards got confusion. One mage blasted a fellow guard with a powerful spell, throwing their ranks into chaos. The other guards watched in shock, stunned by the skill's impossibly high success rate. With enemies fighting each other, Yun seized his chance. He blurred easily through the disorganized guards. His path was clear to his prize. The low HP Overlord right for the taking. The guards' defense crumbled as Yun slipped through. They panicked, yelling why their shields and crowd control failed, accidentally hitting allies. Yun noted their poor coordination, recognizing them as a Miley crew with no real team battle experience. He mused that long peace had made them soft, leading to their downfall. A guard captain tried to rally his men, insisting that if they could pin down the intruder, he'd be dead. Just then, First Patriarch Ding Yi arrived, commanding his men to hold Yun. The level 42 warrior in fiery gear declared he'd deal with the intruder personally. With his blazing weapon, he leaped, preparing a devastating attack on Yun. Yun watched the Patriarch's approach, readying himself. With a dismissive sound, he decided to face the attack heat-in. He pulled out the level 60 combat chains he'd stolen. Though too low-level to fully equip, he knew their immense durability remained. As Dingy's fiery attack descended, Yin used the chains as a makeshift shield, successfully blocking the powerful blast's full force. Yuna cleverly turned Ding Yi's powerful attack to his advantage. Instead of just blocking the fiery blast, he used its immense impact to propel himself backwards like a cannonball, shattering the magical seal guards try to maintain around their boss. He landed perfectly before the crippled dungeon lord. With a final taunt, he cheekily thanked the enraged patriarch for the ride. Before guards reacted, Yin declared he'd steal the Overlord's experience. He unleashed a powerful finishing blow, striking the weakened beast and ending its life. The payoff was immediate and huge. Yun gained a staggering 3 levels instantly, jumping to level 20 and receiving 9 new attribute points. Most importantly, the Dungeon Lord's massive experience maxed out his hidden skill, Mirror World. A system notification confirmed the skill was upgraded, finally reaching the coveted level 2. Seething with rage after his kill was stolen, First Patriarch Ding Yi screamed in fury and charged Yun with his fiery axe. Following his lead, the remaining guards rushed forward, determined to capture the audacious intruder, who stood calmly before the massive Dungeon Lord corpse. But Yin Cho was unafraid. He focused on his spoils, the new power his ultimate skill gained at level 2. As Dingy's powerful attack was about to connect, it passed harmlessly through a shimmering image of Yun, who then vanished. The guard stopped, confused by his sudden disappearance. Yuna found himself in a completely new place. The world had transformed into a silent crystal blue-green version of the dungeon. He activated a new ability of his hidden skill, Mirror World. In this strange dimension, he saw ghostly clear versions of Dingy and other guards. Unaware of his presence, a timer showed his mirror walk would last almost 30 minutes. He realized with excitement that he could now enter the very world inside the mirror. Inside the strange blue-green world, Yun started to use his new power. He saw that everything was a perfect mirror image of the real world flipped left to right. At first, he thought the ghostly shapes of the guards were just tricks as his hand went right through one. But when he touched the crystal-like ground, he found it was solid, realizing this place was more than just a trick. His exploration led to an amazing find. He picked up a solid crystal piece from the ground, and a message told him he had a mirror shard that importantly could be taken out of this world and into the real one. This was a big deal for Yin. He understood that with his mirror world skill, now at level 2, he could bring real objects from this other world into his own. Wondering what else had changed with the skills upgrade, he checked his system screen. He saw a completely different list of skills showing many powerful reversed abilities like invisibility and force field cage. But most of them were marked not activated, which confused him. A message quickly explained that these skills were for base skills not yet learned. He then understood the full power of his new ability. The list showed the reversed forms of all skills he could learn. He now knew that to use any of these strong abilities, he first needed to find and learn their normal versions in reality. The skill reversal he used at level 1 was just a simple basic part of his ability's true power. As he looked through the exciting list of future powers, he realized this changed everything. He could now pick strong skill pairs and plan his whole class path ahead of time, knowing exactly what powerful reverse forms he would get. As Yin was thinking about his new skill's full potential, he suddenly felt something behind him. Turning, he saw a faint blue-green human shape floating aimlessly in the crystal air. He wondered if it was a soul, like how he was stuck before he came back to life. The idea interested him, and he asked if other souls were also in this strange world. Without warning, the calm soul flashed with green energy, turning into a screaming, bone-like undead creature that lunged at him. Surprised, Yin pulled out his glowing blade and got ready to fight. He met the creature's attack, and with one swing easily smashed the undead being, noting it didn't seem very strong. Just as he finished the creature, a new message popped up, getting his attention. The system offered him an undead contract. It explained he could make a deal with the soul he had just beaten, letting it leave the mirror world and fight for him in the real world. The contract also said the soul's highest level would always be the same as his, and he could have 20 such contracts. This unexpected event made Yin think about what this new power could do. Yin thought about what his new power meant. He now understood that after beating an undead creature in the mirror world, he could make a deal with its soul and bring it out into reality as a powerful fighter. Holding the mirror shard he had made real, he knew his ability wasn't just for things like stones. The level 2 upgrade to mirror world was a real game changer, letting him bring not only items, but also an army of undead from the mirror world into the real one. Looking at the huge crystal landscape full of possibilities, he found the idea interesting. Back in the real world, things were messy. With its lord defeated, the private dungeon had vanished, leaving a stunned and confused army of guards. They couldn't understand where the intruder had gone. One captain frantically asked how he just vanished, wondering if it was a high rogue stealth skill. A rogue expert quickly said no, explaining their stealth had clear limits and couldn't make someone disappear so perfectly. The lack of answers made another captain angry, and he grabbed the rogue, demanding to know how the intruder could have escaped with so many of them there. The first patriarch, Ding Yi, was even angrier. Having lost his valuable private dungeon, he took his anger out on one of his men, grabbing the man's face and yelling that if they couldn't find the person responsible, they would have to pay him back for the loss. Meanwhile, Yuna's time in the mirror world was ending. As his mirror walk timer counted down, he wondered where he would show up again. Would he go back to his first spot, or were there other rules for leaving the mirror world? He got his answer a moment later when he appeared back in the real world in the exact same spot where he had vanished. The angry Ding, he spotted him right away and without thinking roared for his men to get him. Facing the new attack from the Ding family's fighters, Yin stayed perfectly calm. He held up a hand, a swirling green light glowing in it as he told them not to be so fast. He said that after being ganged up on for so long, it was time for him to do the same. With that, he used the power he had just gained from the mirror world. A flood of spooky, skeletal warriors burst out, forming a scary undead army that rushed towards the shock guards. The guards reacted with pure terror, their attacks slowing as they questioned what these ghost-like figures were, wondering if they were actual ghosts. The first patriarch, Ding Yi, tried to calm the growing fear. He yelled at his men not to panic and said the creatures were just undead monsters he had seen many times before. One of the guards fought a skeletal warrior, getting ready for a tough fight. However, he was surprised to see a health bar appear above the creature. It was an undead skeleton warrior, and it was only level 20, the same as Yun. Despite this, the fear was strong. Dingy's face twisted with rage at his men's continued hesitation. To get them to fight, he promised a bonus to everyone if they attacked and caught the intruder. The idea of a reward seemed to make them brave again. But as the guards turned their attention from the undead army back to Yun, they found he was no longer there. Confused, they looked around, wondering where he could have possibly gone. Having used his newly summoned undead as a distraction, Yun watched the fight from a safe distance. He judged that his current army was still too weak to be truly effective. He knew that if he could find and make deals with stronger souls, the disorganized guards would have been no match for him. However, he was limited by what he could find. He had already made deals with the 20 strongest souls available in the small area he had explored within the mirror world. Also, he found that his exploration of the mirror world wasn't endless. He had hit a wall that kept him within 200 m of where he entered. This made him realize that to find better undead, he would need to enter the mirror world from different places in the future. His planning was cut short when he saw that his friend Xiao Ji, who had been acting as a distraction, had been found hiding in the woods. One of the guards sneered at the disguised boy, teasing him about the reward he would get for catching him. Without hesitation, Yin leaped from the shadows, quickly and precisely striking down the guards, threatening his friend. With their path clear, he grabbed the stunned Xiao Ji and told him they were leaving. Looking at the mess he had created, with his undead army keeping the rest of the guards busy, Yin decided their job was done. It was time to go back, get away from the danger, and properly check all the new things he had gained from his bold raid. As Yun and Xiaowai escaped, the remaining Ding family guards fought the undead army. The guards fiercely attacked the skeletal warriors, breaking their bones. A guard leader noted the creatures weren't very strong, but their relief was short-lived. To their horror, a defeated skeleton would instantly reform unharmed. They kept fighting only for skeletons to revive endlessly. Just as the guard's spirits were breaking, Dingay, the strong level 523rd head of the Ding family, appeared calmly smoking. He realized the skeletons were summoned creatures, and that reviving them used their summoner's magic. With a confident smile, he concluded they just needed to kill them until their master ran out of energy. Sometime after the chaotic attack, the old master, the powerful head of the family with a long white beard, returned. He immediately asked if their important guest, Miss Yun Sha, had left. Inside, his son, Ding Hao, bowed respectfully, apologizing for failing to keep her there. He explained the intruder was unbelievably bold, causing a commotion by shouting and even breaking a window, which scared their guest away. The old master, the formidable level 57 Ding Dan, son of hero Ding Kuan, was furious. He yelled at his son for the complete security failure, enraged that an intruder got in and escaped without being identified. Dingo bowed his head in shame, taking full blame. However, Ding Hao offered good news. Despite the chaos, Miss Yun Sha agreed to go to the hero's dungeon, meaning his grandfather, Hero Dingen's matter, was not ruined. This didn't calm the angry patriarch. Ding Di swore they'd kill the culprits without mercy. He then impatiently ordered his son to quickly check what else was stolen. Safely away from the chaos, Yun reviewed his gains. He looked at the temporary dungeon access permit he stole, which had Zaiwai's name. He had the pass, his main goal, but still needed an escort for the hero's dungeon. He decided not to rush this problem. He assessed his other gains from the Ding family house raid. It was very profitable, raising his level to 20. His powerful Chimera Bone Ring was almost destroyed from blocking an attack, but he'd stolen over 10 valuable skill books. He saw one book had chant skills, all support types. He learned Battle Song Chant, which boosted critical hit rate and damage but lowered defense. He immediately considered its reversed form, Shield Song Chant, which would do the opposite. He excitedly realized by learning and reversing these support skills, he could greatly boost his stats. With these boosts, and a new passive skill that increased his strength, he knew he could crush any same-level opponent with pure stats. Besides skill books, the Dungeon Lord dropped a rare level 30 item, Corrupted Knight's Armor, which would be useful later. But most importantly, above all the levels, skills, and equipment, he had finally leveled up his hidden skill, Mirror World, to level 2. Thinking about his new abilities, Yuni admitted his necromantic summons greatly increased his combat power. But he knew it wasn't enough. Recalling the hero Dinkuan statue, he judged his enemy was at least an S-rank berserker. To have any chance of killing him, Yin figured he'd need to reach level 50 or higher, and more importantly, find and contract an S-rank necromantic spirit. Later, safe from the Ding compound, a still shaken Xiao Ji nervously asked Yin if they wouldn't be followed. Yin calmly said they'd lost their pursuers and were safe since their faces weren't seen. Still, Xiao Ji was uneasy, and Yin noted how hard the experience must have been for him. Seeing his current undead army was too weak, Yin decided his next step. He asked Xiao Ji if there were any nearby dungeons where a powerful person had died. When Xiao Ji looked confused, Yin explained he needed a higher level dungeon to level up faster, adding the powerful person was for something he'd find out later. After a moment, Xiao O confirmed there was such a place. However, he hesitated, worried. He revealed it was the school's private dungeon and they couldn't sneak in. The information made Yin pause, thinking about a controlled, heavily guarded dungeon. But he didn't waver. He simply decided if normal entry was impossible, he'd use special methods to get what he wanted. As part of his special methods to enter the school's private dungeon, Yin met his class teacher. He gave the teacher a valuable, rare, purple quality skill book for his Wanderer class stolen from the Ding family. The bribe worked. The teacher, now believing Yin had powerful backing, became more helpful. He admitted dungeon access was usually fixed and he couldn't easily change things. However, he explained a loophole. The dungeon was open for graduating students. While Yin wasn't normally qualified, a teacher could recommend an outstanding student. Convinced of Yun's outstanding potential, he promised to get him a spot. The plan succeeded. Yin joined students entering the school's valiant dungeon. Other students were determined or flattering. One grimly noted it might be his last chance to level up, while another thanked the hero. As Yin walked past the glowing portal, he felt a strange unease, sensing something was wrong with this dungeon. The teacher enthusiastically explained it was where the hero once fought and traces of his power might remain inside. Nearby, Chao listened grimly. He horrifyingly realized the valiant dungeon was where, According to the Empire's fake history, hero Dinquan valiantly killed his great-grandfather, traitor Qiaoan. Knowing the dark truth, Chao hesitated. He struggled, wondering if he should tell Yun what he knew about the dungeon's true history. As students gathered at the dungeon entrance, the teacher gave a final warning. It was a high-level dungeon, and they must be careful within their limits. He then singled out a red-haired student in armor, Little Z, telling him to look after Yun and Chaoji. Little Z was clearly annoyed, complaining he couldn't focus on leveling up if he had to babysit. Another student pushed him forward, telling him to stop complaining as the dungeon was open, grumbling about why younger students were allowed. Little Z entered the dungeon with the others. He condescendingly ordered Yun and Xiao Ji to stay back and not cause trouble, threatening to abandon them if they were a burden. As the group went into the vast, purple-lit interior, Yun silently assessed his surroundings. He noted it was supposed to be a level 2040 dungeon. However, his instincts from his past life screamed something was wrong. A deep unease washed over him as he felt a profound danger that didn't fit a dungeon of this supposed difficulty. As students went deeper into the glowing purple Valiant dungeon, Yun saw Yun-In and her blonde friend Yun-Sha inside. He wondered how they, as younger students, were allowed. Little Z, assigned to watch, Yun also saw the girls and pointed them out to another armored student. This student immediately dreamed of escorting the attractive girls. His fantasy was cut short by a taller, serious student in a helmet who smacked him, telling him to stop dreaming. This student revealed Yun-In and Yun-Sha were much stronger, both over level 30. He scoffed that they should be asking the girls for help, and the daydreaming student wasn't good enough for them. Embarrassed, the student muttered he was just talking. As the older students talked, the daydreaming boy watched Yun-Sha and Yun-In. To his and his friend's surprise, the two high-level younger students ignored them and walked directly towards Yun and Xiaoju. Yuna watched them approach, confused. He recognized Yun-Sha as the high-status guest from the Ding family's house. Her direct approach made him suspicious. He wondered if she knew the original owner of his body, or if she was confronting him for Ding Shu, whom he'd publicly embarrassed. Yun-Sha's approach was direct and friendly. Smiling confidently, she told Yun she saw him at the memorial hall and complimented his fighting skills, adding his voice was unique. Yun wasn't sure what she wanted, thinking she was just making small talk. However, Yun-Sha and LT, Unk and GT's eyes glowed gold as she leaned closer, revealing she recognized his voice from the shattering glass during his escape from the Ding family residence. This stunned Yun. He realized, alarmed, that this powerful girl had identified him as the intruder just from 2 sentences. He shouted. Having made her point, Yun-Sha's clothes changed to white mage-like combat gear. Yun-In did the same, putting on a dark green energy outfit. Yun-Sha then told a still surprised Yun they'd explore the dungeon first, then walked away with her friend. As they walked off, Yun processed the encounter carefully. He understood she recognized him as the intruder, but chose not to expose him publicly, subtly delivering the message. This made him wonder if it was a warning. He considered the dangerous possibility that Ding Shu also recognized his voice from their earlier fight. However, Yun decided not to worry for now. He was confident that as long as the Ding family didn't act immediately, his fast leveling speed would soon make him strong enough.